Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Charlotte Canion. Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
I'm your host, Charlotte Canion, and I'm the author of the 2018 best self-help book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, How to Parent Your Parents. And it's my pleasure to have our guest author this evening, Barbara Ann and I'm going to screw up her name. It's Mojica. Mojica. Well, she's a historian and an educator. And she's got a whimsical series of books called the Little Miss History Books. She's won many international and national awards. Welcome to the show, Barbara.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlotte.
We're proud to have you. Before we get into your books, I'd like you to tell a little bit of history. And of course, I think we heard your husband over there. A little bit about your family and your husband, of course, and how you got into writing.
Okay, well, being a historian, I've always done lots of writing. I was a history major, English and classics minor. So I did a lot of term papers in my time, and I always enjoyed writing. But I went into education after I finished college and graduate school with degrees in history. And I started to work with children. I love working with children. So I found myself working with younger children, even though I had originally planned to teach high school. But I found myself working with the younger children. I loved it. I worked with all ages in elementary school and middle school. And then I got into special education. I really started to notice how children with special needs weren't having their needs being met. So I got into special education, and I wound up then eventually as a special education principal and then an administrator. So my career kind of went around in circles, and I kind of hit all aspects of the education field, but I always loved my history. So after I retired from my formal teaching career, I decided I wanted to do some writing. So I started to write for a local news magazine, and I write just brief articles that have a historical bent to them. But I missed my kids. So I didn't last very long. I wanted to get back to working with the kids. Even though I do have children of my own, I have 2 children, and I have 6 grandchildren, including 2 sets of twins. But yeah, each of my children has a set of twins. So wow. I really wanted to get back to working with the kids. So I wanted to write a series of children's books, and I always wanted to make history interesting for kids, because when I went to school, history wasn't taught in a very interesting way, even though personally I enjoyed it and I loved it. But that wasn't the case for most kids. So I mentioned it to my husband, and he said, well, why don't you use a character to narrate your stories and to make it fun for kids? So my character brings the reader right into the story and kind of makes them see it from their perspective. So he created a cartoon character for me, and my husband's been drawing and telling stories since about the age of 5. So he had already published children's books. He had done the artwork for a children's Bible, for coloring books. He had done cartooning, and he had written science fiction as well. So he has had a broad spectrum, in the field. So he said, I'll develop a cartoon character. So he developed this cartoon character based on a younger version of me. So Little Miss History, my narrator, is actually a teenager, and she's based on a combination of my life experiences. I always love to travel. So she's a traveler. She goes to national parks. She goes to historic monuments. She wears kind of a camp outfit, something like a national park ranger would wear. And she wears huge hiking boots that are 2 sizes too big for her. And those were in memory of my father, who had huge feet. So she's, the big ears are just to make her funny. Actually, I have really tiny ears, not big ears, but she's a caricature, and she makes kids laugh. She gets into all kinds of antics. Her moods vary according to what the story is about. She can be very somber, like in my Ford's Theater book, which talks about the assassination of Lincoln, or she can be very upbeat, skydiving into Sequoia National Park. So she, again, reflects the reader.
Now, you said you had two children, and they both have sets of twins?
Yes, they do. My son has a set of identical twin girls, and my daughter has a set of fraternal twins, a boy and a girl.
Oh my gosh, that
And my
must be
mother
nice.
was a twin. My mother was a fraternal twin.
Do they live nearby? Do you get to see them all the time?
No, unfortunately, I don't. My son lives about 800 miles from me, and my daughter lives about 150. So not as often as I'd like.
Well, it's kind of like me. I have 20 grandchildren, and probably half of them live within an hour's drive, but the rest, live everywhere. But grandchildren are the best. Let me ask you this. Do you use any of the grandchildren or your children in your books?
No, well, I dedicated one of my books to my grandchildren. But as far as using their pictures, no.
No, I meant their characteristics or something like that.
Well, yeah, I guess in a tangential way, yeah, because some of my grandchildren are a lot like my children, and some of their characteristics are in the books, yes.
Yeah, and I noticed that Victor's kind of part of all of this, besides just being your illustrator. Do you use him in the books?
Well, we both take the photographs. He does most of the photography. The books are what you call mixed media. So there are portraits, there are characters used from that are from history that he draws from photographs, if there are no actual photographs of them. We take our own photographs when we visit these sites. So the photography is our own photography. So for instance, with the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum, all of the pictures from the Intrepid are our own photographs. And the same thing with almost all of the books. They're our own photography. But I say it's mixed media because you have hand-drawn, you have cartoonish drawings, you have real portraits of people, and you have the actual photography from.
So you have a little bit of it. Well, stay tuned. We're going to let our sponsors take a break here, and we're going to come back and talk to Barbara a little bit more and dig deeper into those musical books.
World War II, the Holocaust and a mysterious package arrives in New York from Germany 40 years after the war, involving 3 families across the oceans. Mystery, intrigue, and correcting the most heinous of wrongs. This is just part of the story Michael Newman tells in his book, Between These Walls. Available in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or at indielector.store. Buy it today and enjoy this thriller of a novel.
Well, hello there, my friends. My name is Randy James, independent voiceover producer in the Dallas, Texas area, available to write and record a 30-second commercial, much like the one you're hearing right now. It's a great way to help increase awareness and exposure to your book title. It's easy to do. Simply call me and we'll brainstorm on a few ideas, and in a few hours, I'll whip something up and send you a digital file ready to use. Remember, call or text me, Randy James, at 214-762-1942.
Welcome to indielector.store, an online bookstore where the discriminating reader can find award-winning books. IndieLector.store is not a big corporation, so we can give up to 80% of the sales directly to the author. Help us support them by buying a great book at IndieLector.store.
Join us for the 6th Annual Authors Marketing Event in Granbury, Texas on July 23rd to the 25th, 2021, where authors share ideas and learn from the professionals over a 2-day weekend. Receive your book marketing certification from the only organization in the world that has been doing it for 5 years, Authors Marketing Guild, a membership-based organization that supports authors from around the world. Learn more at ame.authorsmarketingguild.com. Sponsored by IndieLector.store, a bookstore that pays authors their fair share.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have 2 new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
This is Charlotte Canion, your host, and we are speaking with Barbara, and she's the author of the whimsical books about the Little Miss History. Now, Barbara, I wanted to ask you, have you been to all of these places that you've written about?
Most of them. Actually, my first book, Mount Rushmore, we did not personally visit. That one was done without our photography. Of course, the North Pole, we haven't visited that one.
Well, I was going to ask that, but I thought, well, I'll see how far she's traveled.
But most of the others, yes, like again with La Brea Tar Pits, that's, a lot of that is our photography of the museum and the site itself, walking around the site. And almost all the others, yes.
So you have traveled a lot. Now, how long did it take you? Remember, when did you put out your first book? How many years have you been working on, traveling and writing these?
Well, I've been working on this book series since 2013, and I have quite a few scripts that are pretty much written but not illustrated. So I have a lot of other sites that I do plan to explore. My next book will be Independence Hall in the Museum of the American Revolution, which is a fantastic place. That one will be coming out in September. And
y'all went there? You went there?
Yes. I'm probably going to do one on the battleship Iowa in California, which that's more near Los Angeles. Eventually, I want to do one on Saratoga, the turning point of the American Revolution, Death Valley, perhaps. I've visited there. I think that would make an interesting book. And I have a few others in mind.
I can almost see y'all traveling in a big old, RV with all the caricatures on the side of the bus going down the road.
That would be fun. I wish I had one. Well, my brother loves RV. He wants to get an RV when he retires. And my brother has come along with us on a lot of the recent trips. He lives out in California, so we've done the Death Valley, the Tombstone, and the La Brea Tar Pits. He was with us when we visited those.
And where are you from?
I'm from upstate New York.
Okay, and where do y'all live now?
I live in upstate New York. So I live in a very, very historic area. I can almost literally walk to a historic site.
You definitely do. Now, I've been up in that area. There's a lot of history up there. It's very, very old. But if you've ever been to Europe, you know what a baby we are.
Oh,
and
yes.
And it's got to frustrate you, them killing. we won't get into a political thing, but them destroying monuments, it's just driving me nuts.
Oh, no, just don't get me started. The
Yeah, we don't want to go.
The importance of knowing your history. That's one of my character's slogan is, if you don't know your history, you don't know what you're talking about.
My husband is, yep. My husband, his story, and he says that thing all the time. You don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. You're bound to make the mistakes again.
And I tell that to children when I go to schools and I talk to children about history. I tell them that the day they're born, they become a character in history. And history has been going on long before they were here, and it will be going on long after. But history isn't just a record of dates and events. Everything and everybody has a history, and history is about real people, real places, and real things. And if we don't understand how we got to where we are today, we're never going to understand why we're here or how we can move forward in the future. Yeah.
With COVID going on, are you Zooming into schools when they start? I don't know if y'all have started yet. We have. We're in Texas, by the way. And our schools have started. Will you be Zooming in and telling your stories, or how will you be handling that?
Well, probably right now in my local school district, they plan on doing a hybrid model. I don't know if you know, New York is pretty restrictive because of the city and so many cases. In my particular area, there really are not that many cases at all. But we were pretty much on lockdown for a long time.
Yeah.
So now it's being left more or less with general guidelines up to the individual school districts. And in my particular school district, what they're doing is the children up to 5th grade are going to go in person. And the middle school and high school are going to be on a 2-day in, 2-day out hybrid kind of schedule. So they'll go in for 2 days, then they'll all be out for a day when they clean the building, and then the other group will go in for 2 days, and when they're not in, they'll be doing hybrid learning. But what I did during the pandemic was I put my teacher hat back on, and I spent a lot of time finding resources for parents and teachers, and I was sharing them on all my social media. And then I did a few things with authors. We did a story time with authors, and we took turns reading stories and giving activities for children to use in distance learning. And during that time, I also developed my YouTube channel a lot. So I put 2-minute mini lessons on that parents or teachers could use, and I plan to continue that as well. So I'm going to be doing a lot of that in the fall. I don't really know what's going to happen with school visits yet. We haven't started school yet. Here in New York, they don't start school till after Labor Day, because they generally go to the end of June when they're in session. So it's still a little bit in flux, but I would like to do more Zoom or Skype school visits this year, since at least at the beginning, we're not going to be able to do in person. Because I so miss the in-person events and seeing the children.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, since you mentioned, your YouTube channel and some of that, are your books on audio? Do you have
No, a few of them have Kindle versions. So much of it is the pictures that I don't think
it would translate.
It would translate well to audio. I may eventually do that. Nobody really has requested that. I did one thing that I did at the request of teachers and parents was I took 3 of my books and I put them together into a trilogy book. Teachers and parents who were focused on New York asked if I could put all of the New York books together. So I did my Statue of Liberty, my Ellis Island, and my Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum, and I put them together in a new trilogy book that has all three, and I call that The Adventures of Little Miss History. So that was done for schools. And then a lot of teachers and librarians requested that I do hardcover. So the last couple of my books I've offered in a hardcover version, the Tombstone book and the North Pole and the FDR book. So those are in hardcover as opposed to paperback, which the original ones were on in paperback.
Okay, so it's your recent ones that are, that are the hardcover. So are you going to do hardcover from this time forward with your new book?
I think so, because it seems that the teachers and librarians especially prefer them because they last a lot longer. Although my books are not necessarily meant for young children, even though they have a lot of pictures and illustration in them, the actual independent reading level is more of a middle grade level. So I kind of zero in on the kindergarten through grade 6.
Right. Well, Barbara, this is fascinating. We're going to take a short break here, but stay tuned because we're going to come back and find out how you can get her books and how you can talk to her yourselves.
Thank you for watching or listening to Indie Beacon Radio. Our sponsor, IndieLector.store, is the only bookstore that pays authors their fair share for book sales. Help authors to succeed and enjoy a great book by supporting them at IndieLector.store. Enjoy a 10% discount with coupon code SHOPPER20 at IndieLector.store. Coupon valid until December 31st, 2020. That's IndieLector.store, coupon code SHOPPER20.
The Fire in the Rock by Charles Henderson Norman was named to Kirkus Review's list of the best books of the year in 2016. It is the story of the Exodus as told by Zipporah, Moses' widow, long after the fact. But it is not a conventional Bible story book. It will challenge non-believers, but it will challenge believers as well, with a human perspective on a story that you have never heard.
Available on Amazon as a paperback, ebook, or Audible. Dear Texas is proud to present the Lone Star Festival on May 29, 2021 from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., where Texas authors, artists, and creatives come together for a Texas-sized event at the Seguin Coliseum, Seguin, Texas. Sponsored by Indie Lector, Authors Marketing Guild, and the City of Seguin. A perfect event for those who enjoy the creative arts. Register for your free tickets and prizes at lonestar.bookfestival.network. Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
This is Charlotte Canion, and it's my pleasure to speak with the author of Little Miss History. Now, she's been telling us all about her books, and I don't even know how many she has. How many books do you have, Barbara?
Right now, there are 12 individual books. The Little Miss History travels 2. And then I have the trilogy book, The Adventures of Little Miss History, and there is a coloring book / activity book. It's not a coloring book in the sense of just outline pictures. They're more like grayscale portraits, so that if you color them with marker or pencil, you get more of a professional looking picture. And within it, I have sayings from famous people that go along with the photographs, and then an activity page at the end. So that's my Little Miss History coloring / activity book. So there are 14 altogether, and the Independence Hall book will be out in September. So
in September. And you did say you've got more planned,
yes.
Manuscript. And can you give us a little hint of where we might be going with our travels next?
Well, at the end of each book, I have a page that says next stop. And I tell the readers where we're going next. So the next stop from Independent Soul will be the Battleship Iowa.
Oh, that is super. That is super. Well, Barbara, I know that our listeners want to know how they can get your books, where they can find your books, how they can reach you. Maybe they want you to zoom in and, read one of your books. So could you give us some of that information?
Sure. Well, the best place to reach me is my website, which has connections to everything. So the website is just www.littlemisshistory.com. From the website, you can click on my email. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can click on my email, which is simply barbara@littlemisshistory.com. And my page links to samples of the books, reviews from Amazon, testimonials, a direct contact, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my YouTube channel. So if you just click on any of those icons, you can go directly to them.
That's right. You said Victor was a techie, so he's got you everywhere, right?
And I'm on Instagram as well. So Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, pretty much anywhere on social media.
Anywhere on social media that you can be, and you're available to do a Zoom in, right?
Yeah, I'm available to do Zoom or Skype.
And so they can contact you through your website.
Right. Just click on the contact form or email me directly at barbara@littlemisshistory.
Little Miss History. Well, this is Charlotte Canion, and I want to thank Barbara for a wonderful show. This has been fabulous. I can't wait to, look at them myself. And I'm definitely over 70. But I want to read them to my grandchildren. This is Charlotte Canion. Thank you again for joining us. And I want you to remember that a rose is like a book. You can't know its beauty until you look at it. And a book is like a rose. You won't know its full beauty until you open it. This is Charlotte. Bye for now, and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website.
Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Charlotte Canion. Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B. Allen Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B. Allen Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcord.